Thank you very much. It is really a thrill to be here and share some perspectives with all of you. I love the opportunity to interact with students, and I'm very disappointed that I'm not able to stay for lunch because I'm headed to a wedding in Pittsburgh right after this, so I will not be able to join you for lunch, but I do really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I have some prepared remarks to say. I want to say this up front, and I'm told that I'm keeping you here till about 10 of 12 or so. I am most capable of speaking for 50 minutes, but I really don't want to. So the degree to which you help me by participating, either asking questions or giving me some feedback, would be tremendously appreciated. Otherwise, it's your own fault. I almost said something else. It's your own fault that you got me talking at you for 50 minutes, all right? Is that a deal? All right. Let me just say something very quickly before I get into my actual topic, which is the Lancaster County economy. Give you a little, just a quick bite about what a Chamber of Commerce is. I understand that the majority of you, I believe, here are freshmen. You have some interest in business. You are probably just starting to put together the pieces of the puzzle, and don't rush it. Make sure you keep an open mind as you continue this journey at Elizabethtown. But a Chamber of Commerce is an organization that is designed to represent the collective business community in a certain area. In our case, we are a countywide Chamber of Commerce, Lancaster County Chamber of Commerce. We have about 2,450 companies that pay us dues, inclusive of Elizabethtown College, pay us dues to be members of the Chamber in the hopes that they will better connect with other businesses, that they will learn from each other, that they will be able to have training for their employees and senior executives, and as importantly as any of this, that they'll be able to combine together their collective power and make a positive difference in our community. Things like taxes and infrastructure and in the environment and all those types of things that impact the quality of life in a community are extremely important to business, and the Chamber of Commerce is there to make sure that that business voice is heard. In the interest of the Lancaster Chamber, just a quick anecdote, we were started about 145 years ago by a group of downtown Lancaster business owners that wanted to get the streets paved. And they recognized that they would have a better chance of getting the streets paved if they worked with the neighbor business next to them, as opposed to just trying to get the streets paved by themselves. And as a result of that, they formed the Lancaster Chamber to try to make their voice known to get the streets paved. Now, that's how it started. It may not be the best example, because for those of you that have been in the city of Lancaster recently, 145 years later, we're still trying to get those streets paved. But we're on it, man. We're on it. And it's gonna, we hope real soon that the vision of our founders 145 years ago will be fully realized. But that's what a Chamber of Commerce is. We interact with government all the time. We interact with the private sector, businesses all the time. And we try to make sure that the business voice is represented at every table. And as we work through this, when I'm done with the presentation here, if you have any questions about that, that's certainly fair game as well. But what I want to talk to you about today is specifically the Lancaster County economy. You folks are starting out on your journey. You certainly hear constantly about the economic climate, both of our country, maybe less so locally, certainly of Pennsylvania a little bit. But the fact of the matter is the economy isn't always what it seems. And I want to present to you today an argument, if you will, or a case for you to think about and at least become critical thinkers as you hear people debate the merits of the economy or the drivers and the movers and shakers of any economy, because it isn't always what it seems, and Lancaster is representative of that clearly. So I start with this question for you folks, and that is this. This is now your turn to participate. First of all, how many of you are from Lancaster County or the 30 miles away, 60 miles away? Okay, I'm going to ask you folks to not answer this question yet. You're going to answer it second, okay? So to those that are a little bit further away, probably somewhat new then to Lancaster County and certainly Elizabethtown, let me ask you this question. What do you think is the major driver of the Lancaster County economy? Yeah. Agriculture. Anybody else with a guess? it's really okay to have an opinion and express it. And I swear I won't laugh. Others may laugh, but I will not laugh. I'll take you seriously. No, is there any other? Everybody here, let me just be clear on this then. Everybody here thinks unilaterally that agriculture is the number one issue in Lancaster, is number one industry in Lancaster County. Yes. Okay. Tourism. All right. Is that what you, is that, I can write that fairly? Okay, tourism. I think someone over here, yes.
Chocolate industry.
What's that? Chocolate industry. Isn't that nice of our sponsors right now? Yes.
Small business.
Small business. Anybody else? Okay, now for those people that I said don't answer that were from here that might have a little bit more sense of familiarity of what you think it is, do any of you have anything to add, or do you disagree with any of these that are up there? I'm okay with silence too. Makes you squirm a little bit, but I'm all right with it. Anybody? So this is the list. So this is what we're going to be working on. I'm going to keep it up here just to reflect on as we go through the slides. So let's get started here. Let me give you a little bit first of some context. And I'm telling you up front, this is Lancaster County specific. But I do want to give you some context. First of all, in 2010, and some of these statistics are 2 and 3 years old, and I apologize for that, but the accuracy of them requires them to be about this old. The next ones come out actually probably in October. We'll get the facts for 2011. But in 2010, Lancaster's gross domestic product was $19.3 billion. It puts us 6th among the other areas of Pennsylvania. You can see up there what the other areas of Pennsylvania are. But the one thing that I think is worth noting, and maybe gives you a little bit better sense of the strength of Lancaster's economy as compared to the rest of the state, is of all those other metropolitan services areas reflected up there, we're the only one that's only a single county. The others are multiple counties. So we are, our area is specific to Lancaster County. All these other ones up there you can see are multiple counties, but we rank 6th in Pennsylvania in economic impact. But as a county, we would rank higher than that. From 2001 up until 2010, we've grown from $14.8 billion to $19.4 billion. Our average growth rate has been 3.5% in those years. I notice a lot of you, and I'm appreciative of it, and I'll be happy to give you this PowerPoint, writing down these numbers, but don't get too caught up in the numbers, because I'm going to have 2 primary points to make, and the numbers just help invite it, but don't worry about it. Don't worry about writing down everything that I'm saying here, particularly because half of it isn't true, and I don't want you to take it away and think that and show other people. You can see that also that our growth between 2009 and 2010 was 4.2%, which was equal to Pennsylvania. That's only interesting because historically we outpaced Pennsylvania. And recently now we've been equal to Pennsylvania. So this is the kicker for me every time though. Our county's economic gross domestic product is bigger than over 100 economies, countries across the globe. And you can see some of them up there, which I'm sure you're well aware of. You've certainly heard them before. They're not obscure countries by any stretch, but just Lancaster County has a larger economy than all of those countries listed up there. And then there's 100 others across the world that we also outpace. So in the scheme of the United States, one might think that the Lancaster County economy is not overly significant. And in the scheme of the United States, that would be accurate. But in the scheme of the broader sense of the world, the Lancaster County economy is a strong driving economy that outpaces many other countries. All right. Now, this is going to be a little bit, because many of you aren't from here, this slide may not have as much impact as it might for some natives, but does anybody have a guess and I'll go to Mike Mitchell when nobody else has a guess, but does anybody have a guess as to what that list up there might represent? Yes? I'm sorry, what? Okay. It is exactly what they are, except it's not current. Does anybody want to take a shot at what year that might be? Yeah, that's kind of obscure, I admit. Okay, these are the top 10 industrial employers in Lancaster County in 1960. Now, what doesn't have as much impact for a group like this, because you're in large parts new to the area, and in more parts, none of you were born in 1960, except for me, and it doesn't seem all that long ago, but I'm sure to you guys it seems like ancient history. But what's interesting about that list is if you ask a person in Lancaster today, how many of those companies still exist or how many do you remember, very few people would be able to say, oh yeah, I remember Penn Dairies, because it's gone. Quaker State Metals, gone. DeWalt, gone. Hubli Manufacturing, gone. Schick, gone. Hamilton Watch, gone. RCA, gone. All of those companies are gone, yet those were the top 10 industrial employers in 1960. 50 years ago, which is not all that far, and all those companies are now gone. The other interesting thing to note about that list, to hang on to this thought as we move through the slides here, all of those companies are for-profit companies, and 7 of those 10 companies had their headquarters in Lancaster County. Now you can write that one down because you're about to see those numbers, how they will change, and we'll talk about what impact that has. All of them are for-profit companies. Can anybody tell me the difference between a for-profit company and a non-profit company? As broadly as you want to try to state it. Okay, it's important that you know this, in my opinion. So here you go. A for-profit company is different in a host of ways, but one of the key ways in terms of its impact in a community is it pays taxes. It pays school taxes, it pays county taxes, it pays local taxes, it pays state taxes, it pays federal taxes. A nonprofit company, such as Elizabethtown College, does not have to pay taxes. Broadly speaking, property taxes they definitely don't have to pay, and then there's other taxes they can be exempt from as well, depending somewhat on how they're structured. So those companies, while they may be great employers, aren't necessarily paying any school district taxes. They aren't paying anything to their local governments. They may not be paying anything to their county or their state, and they are, I don't want to say they're less attractive, but they can have less impact in a community in the overall creation of wealth and vibrancy than a for-profit company. So I pause there with that distinction to note that these are 10 for-profit companies, 7 headquartered in Lancaster. All right, so that's the list from 1960. Let's jump ahead, I'll say 20 years, but I know that says 1979. Let's jump ahead and look at the list again of now the top 18 employers. Here again, for those that might have been natives in Lancaster County, you might look at that list and you might not recognize a lot of those names. But still, Armstrong is clearly number 1, just as they were back in, whoops, went the wrong way there. Just as they were back in 1960. And does everybody know what Armstrong World Industries does? Flooring, ceiling tile, did carpets, don't do carpets, has been in and out, but it's basically residential and commercial flooring and ceiling tile. One of the iconic brands in the industry worldwide. And it's been headquartered in Lancaster for over 100 years. And they've been our largest employer for a long time. So we go to 1979. Now here's the 1979 list. There are 18 there. 3 of those 18 are nonprofits. Let's see, we're at Lancaster County Government, Lancaster General Hospital, and the Lancaster School District. So 3 of our top employers in 1979, 1980, however you want, are now nonprofits. And of that list of 18, 8 of those companies are headquartered in Lancaster. The last one, 7 of 10 were headquartered. Now we're at 8 of 18 are headquartered in Lancaster. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. I'm just trying to lay some groundwork here for you folks. Jump ahead another 20 years to 2009. 30 years, I'm sorry, to 2009. And now those are the top employers in Lancaster County. And you can see, for starters, Armstrong World Industries has now dropped to 7th, having been our largest employer for year after year after year. And here's the story on this list. Of the top 20 employers, 10 of them are nonprofits. And 2 of them, 2 of the 20, are headquartered in Lancaster County. Now, why do we care if they're headquartered in Lancaster County or not? I keep bringing that up at every slide. We had 7 of 10, then we had 8 of 18, then we had, and now we're up to only 2 companies of 20 are headquartered in Lancaster. Why do we care? Why do you care? Yes? They probably wouldn't pay more taxes, although they could. There's a lot of ways they could pay more taxes. That's not the answer is not wrong, and it is a reason to care. How about some other reasons? Yes.
Create jobs in the Lancaster.
It creates. It's more assured that jobs will be created in Lancaster. If the company's based in Chicago and has a plant in Lancaster, they're going to probably look to Chicago to create more jobs before they're going to look to Lancaster to create more jobs. So it creates more likelihood that it can create more jobs in Lancaster. Yes. Absolutely. It makes it a hub. It attracts more businesses when you have a lot of headquarters. You're also, when you have a headquarters, you have the upper wage earners of a company then located in your community, and those are the wage earners that will go out to dinner more often, buy new cars, buy houses, buy clothing, and fuel all these other aspects of our economy. When you have, no disrespect intended whatsoever, but when you have an economy filled with fast food workers, they're not going out to dinner that much. They're not buying new houses. They're renting and trying to get by with rent. And it's a whole different economy. When you have a headquarters in your community, that's a population that you can really celebrate. Anything else that you might want to think that you think might make a difference when you have a headquarters? You kind of struck at it, but I'll just take it one step further. When you have a headquarters in your community and you have the president of the company in your community, chances are that president is going to church or temple somewhere locally. They're going to the grocery store locally. They have local neighbors that they're running into. And it becomes a whole lot more difficult for a company to bail or pull the plug or do something bad, frankly, when they're among us, when they're part of the neighborhood, when they're part of the society, when they're within our community. So getting headquarters in any local economy is a really critical component of ensuring economic success for the future of that community. And Lancaster, quite frankly, struggles with that. And as you can see, over the years, it has struggled. I told you I had 2 points to make in this presentation. I'm about to make the 1 point. The 1 point is, based on those charts and that story that I just tried to build for you, is this. The economy is always changing. And you might think that is a tremendously obvious point, but the fact of the matter is you're never done. A community is never done. A company is never done. You never got there and you can quit. It is always changing. If Lancaster in 1960 would have said, boy, don't we have the best group of companies in the world, let's just stop growing and use what we got, we would have found about 3 companies left in the entire county as a result of us not continuing growing and evolving. So the economy, you always have to look ahead to make sure that your economy can continue to grow. When Lancaster County economy in the 1980s was growing like crazy, things were happening really rapidly, and there was a lot of concern about the loss of farmland and other things as a result of the growth that was going on. There was a very strong growing movement within our community that said, enough growth, no more growth. And they started to put land zoning principles in place to say, we're done growing. That is the most dangerous thing a community can do, because the moment you stop growing your economy starts slipping. The absolute moment you stop growing, you go down. You do not stay flat. Trust me on that. Okay, so that's a little history about the evolutionary change of the Lancaster County economy. Now I want to go a little bit further and address some other aspects of the economy. When I ask you some of the key components of the economy, who said, did you say small business? Yeah. Okay. What's your name? Matt. Matt said small business. Here is now the list of Lancaster County businesses, of which there are about 12,000 businesses throughout the county. And this is the list of where they fall in terms of number of employees. And if you take a look at that, you'll see that more than 90% of Lancaster County economy have businesses with 50 and under employees. It is a huge aspect of our local economy. And worth noting, only 35 businesses have more than 500 employees, which is not a whole lot of companies. So you take that slide onto itself, and any of you would go away and say, lesson learned, Lancaster County is a small business economy. I got that. But this is where things start to get a little bit less obvious. Let's say now that we're going to look at the way our economy is organized in the various areas of our economy in terms of the number of businesses in that economy. And then you can see by this chart that you'd look at that and you'd say, well, we are clearly a service sector economy in Lancaster County, with industrial manufacturing second, retail trade third, wholesale trade, and agriculture, 158 companies in Lancaster County. The heck's that? We'll get to that in a minute. But it certainly challenges the notion of agriculture in our economy, at least by this chart alone. And these segments that we have up there are the segments that are designated by the state in terms of, it's called a standard industrial classification code, where a company is categorized in a specific area of the economy, and that's how that plays out. I will add, however, well, no, I'll wait on that. So that's how that plays out. The next slide. This gets a little bit tedious, but you don't have to worry about the details. We're just going to worry about the point. We talked about how many small businesses we have, huge amount. We talked about the number of businesses we have in the service sector, almost more than half. Now let's take a look at the way these things work in terms of the number of employees. And you can see here that the service sector is, in fact, the number one employer in the county, with industrial, which is generally manufacturing across our county, a strong second. But take a look at the next column and see that the average service sector worker makes $39,492. And the average industrial sector worker makes $52,486. So if you start to look at that, the economic impact of a sector starts to change quite a bit. So let me take it then to the concluding slide. The industrial sector in our economy, which is the manufacturing industry, is 25% of the number of firms. It's 31% of our workforce. And it's 39% of all the wages earned in Lancaster County. These are the people in that sector that are going out to dinner more often than the other sectors, buying clothes, cars, houses. It's not that we like that sector the best at the exclusion of the others, but they're the ones that allow the retail industry to continue to survive. They're the ones that allow the restaurant industry to continue to survive. So they are supplementing other aspects of our economy. Service sector, half of the number of firms, half of the number of workers, and half of the number of wages. Service sector is right there in the middle. But look at the retail sector. 15% of the firms, 13% of the workforce, and 7% of all wages. Now, do you understand what that's saying to you there? And when we talk about the tourism aspect of our economy, much of that falls in the retail sector, which is a great it is great that we have such a strong tourism industry, but the tourism industry as a whole does not pay significantly well. So there's less of those people that are adding locally to the economy with re-spending their money locally, and it impacts us in ways different than the industrial sector does. And then agriculture, 1% of all firms, 1% of the workforce, and 1% of the wages. Now, I have been a bit deceptive here on the agriculture, because the one thing that's missing from that slide is the fact that we have over 5,000 family farms in Lancaster County that are not counted in these remarks because the state lists everything as non-farm businesses. I don't necessarily know why, but they list it as non-farm businesses. So, to the people that said agriculture as Lancaster County's economy, it is worth noting that we have a significant agricultural economy in Lancaster County. We are the ag-1 non-irrigated ag-producing county in the United States. It also goes without saying we're the #1 ag-producing county in Pennsylvania. Some of you may be from Chester County. Lancaster County produces about $1 billion worth of agricultural products a year. Chester County is the second most prolific agricultural county in the state, and they produce about $300 million a year. So we're at $1 billion, they're at $300 million, and everybody else is below that. So we are way off the charts in Lancaster as an agricultural economy. As I mentioned, 5,462 farms. 1 in 5 jobs are somehow associated to agriculture. Let me tell you one of the nuances about agriculture. Has anybody here heard of Souders Eggs? It's a company in Lidditz that puts out eggs. And typically when you're buying eggs in the grocery store, locally, chances are pretty good it's a Souders egg product. But in the stateside, Souders Eggs is manufacturing, not agriculture. Kellogg's in Lancaster, Mars in Lancaster, those aren't agriculture, those are manufacturing. So some of it's how the state categorizes this that makes a distinction here. But the fact of the matter is we do have a $1 billion product value specific to agriculture and a $5.7 billion economic impact locally. Now, as great as that $5.7 billion is, manufacturing is significantly more than that. So not to spoil the surprise, but I will tell you this right now, Lancaster County's economy is largely driven by manufacturing. But that is not what the general perception is by a long shot. Let me just give you some nuances about tourism then as well, and then I'm going to go back to this manufacturing for a minute. We are one of the top tourism markets in the United States, top 10 tourism markets in the United States. 26,000 jobs are associated with tourism, $1.8 billion in people spending money here, 11 million visitors per year, and $460 million in tax revenues. I don't want to in any way, shape, or form minimize our tourism economy. It is a great economy, and it does so much more for us than just invite tourism. Because of its marketing and promotion of the Lancaster County brand and image, it is a tremendous way to get our message out about Lancaster County. For those of you that might have said you were going to college at Elizabethtown and they'd say, "Where is that?" and you might say Lancaster County, and they probably said, "Oh, you mean with all the farmland or with the Amish," or whatever it might have been, but there's some people know Lancaster County. If you went to another school and you say, "Oh yeah, it's in Potter County," they'd say, "Oh, that's great, whatever." But people know Lancaster County. And it's because we have such a strong tourism market that our name gets out there. So our economy, in a nutshell then, is vastly driven by manufacturing, not by agriculture and not by tourism. However, they play an essential role in how they all work together. Some of the manufacturing is very directly related to agriculture, and we wouldn't have it without our agricultural farms. Some of the tourism is very directly related to agriculture, because if it weren't for the Amish farmland and the other areas that we have that people come to see and visit, we wouldn't have the strong tourism product that we have. The fact of the matter is all these economies work extremely well together for Lancaster County. And that's something that has worked to our benefit for many, many, many years. The one challenge that we face, and it's in some aspects, I shouldn't say challenge, the challenge or opportunity that we face in Lancaster County is, as a community that has had great benefit from manufacturing in the past. That, as you probably are well aware, is one of those areas of our worldwide economy where the United States continues to lose out. Other countries grab manufacturing because they can produce it cheaper. Now, that's starting to change, and some of it's starting to come back, which is obviously bodes very well for the United States. But Lancaster's vulnerability to some degree is we are over-reliant compared to the national average on manufacturing as a driver of our local economy. And that is a sector that is threatened worldwide by the competition that manufacturing presents. But again, recently, and it's been very recently, there has been more and more manufacturing that used to happen in China or used to happen in India or used to happen someplace overseas that's now starting to come back to the United States. Primarily driven by two reasons. One, have been historically concerns over the quality of the product, and there's a sense that the United States could make a better quality product. And two, while it has always been cheaper, those economies now of India and China and others are creating a more educated workforce that is asking for more money. They're not willing to now just work for pennies an hour. They want a sustainable wage. They want to become a new middle class, and that has costs associated with it that make the math for economies overseas less attractive. Any questions at all about our local economy? I will admit that I'm fully aware that I have had the potential to bore you. I'm with you on that. But I also want you to know two things. One is economies are always changing, and it's never the status quo. And two is economies aren't always what they seem. And if you just stop at the most simple thing of perception and you dig a little deeper, you might find that there's a real disconnect from what you thought. And one of the real challenges that presents for Lancaster County is, for those of you that said agriculture, and my guess is if all of you would have been forced to write something down about what is our number one industry, you'd write down agriculture. That would be my guess. Our public policy then reflects that. So we put a whole lot more emphasis in preserving farms to make sure that they're here for the ages, and I'm totally for preserving farms, don't get me wrong. But we do very little to make sure that we have manufacturing plants that are viable with a workforce that can fill them, because that is not viewed as a public policy priority, but it should be every bit as important as what we do to preserve farms in Lancaster County as well. But perception becomes reality, and it fuels public policy. Okay, a couple of things about the workforce. And again, some of these are dated a bit as well, but they are, you can work with me here. The dates are somewhat irrelevant, but the total employment compared to our neighboring counties of Berks and York is larger because, frankly, we're a larger county. There's about 510,000 people in Lancaster County, and you can see by this graph that we have had a pretty consistent, even through the recession, although it went down, but it's been a fairly consistent employment base in Lancaster County. Right now, we probably have close to 20,000 people unemployed, which is a lot higher than it used to be, and so we'll always be working on trying to make that better. Here's the unemployment. We traditionally do better than our neighboring counties of Berks and York County in our unemployment rate. And as I said, right now it's around 6%, a little over 6%, and somewhat historically high for us. It was as low as 3% before the recession hit. Change in wages. This is the one that I think is perhaps most interesting, and for those of you that ever want some project to study that I think would really be interesting, this is one that would be worthwhile at some point in your college career. Lancaster County is historically a low-wage county. And if you were from this area, there's a tendency to think that we are richer as a county than York or than Reading and Berks County or some other counties that surround us. And the fact of the matter is we aren't. We are, as a community, poorer than those counties because we traditionally offer lower wages than the surrounding counties, which is a lot of reasons that's suggested, one of which is that we have a much less of a union presence in Lancaster County than some other communities, and that can be one of the things that makes the difference. Obviously, tourism industry and even the agricultural industry are industries that may not necessarily pay a significantly high wage either, so that could be a factor, but there are we have historically been a lower paying county. Okay, a couple of quick overviews here on some economic challenges and then turning it over to you folks. Challenges that we face in Lancaster County are not unlike challenges that are faced by any community anywhere in the United States or across the world, and that is the fact that, as they say, the world is flat. We used to have competition from York, and then we used to have competition from South Carolina, and now we have competition from anywhere that you can name in the world. And that makes it for an extremely challenging environment for any economy, and particularly for an economy that's in a smaller market. So that's a significant challenge for our future. We have a slow population growth in Lancaster County, and we have an aging population. They ain't getting any younger, which means, folks, that what I'm counting on all of you to do is to graduate from Elizabethtown in 4 or so years and stay here. We will find you a job. I just want you to stay here. We need the college graduate students to stay in Lancaster and add to the vibrancy of our economy and community. And I know that Elizabethtown and Lancaster and Lidditz and Mountjoy will all be better off if you guys hang around a little bit beyond your 4 years of stay. It's a great place to raise a family. It's a great place to embark on a career. Let me tell you, come right on to Lancaster. All right. Never mind that family business that might be calling you back home. There's opportunity here in Lancaster. Fragmented local governments. You might not appreciate this, but a real challenge for our local economy is this simple fact. Lancaster County has within it 60 different municipalities. And while that might not mean anything to you, what that means from an economic standpoint is those 60 municipalities, Elizabethtown Borough is one of the 60 municipalities, those 60 municipalities have complete jurisdiction over their zoning in their community. They can decide who goes where, who's going to allow manufacturing, who isn't, what type of sign you have to have in front of your company, what type of sign you don't have to come. So when we're trying to bring a business into Lancaster County and they say, well, tell us what we have to do, we have to say, it depends which of the 60 municipalities you want to go to in terms of what it means to do. As opposed to Maryland, where every county's a county-wide effort, and you can just go to the county and say, okay, I'm coming to Hartford County, what do I have to do? You have to do this, 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 and this, and that's it. So it is a big challenge to have the fragmented local government that we have. Infrastructure. I'm babbling on too long, so I'm just going to run through this. Transportation is so critical, and right now, if you're staying involved in any of the statewide news, this issue is coming before our legislature on Monday as an issue. If Pennsylvania does not find a way to adequately fund its roads and mass transit, we will continue to fall behind economically significantly. Right now, we just 3 weeks ago learned that there are 1,100 bridges across the state that have received weight restrictions, which means that companies that used to travel their loads over those bridges are no longer allowed to, and it is causing them to reroute and add cost to companies. I mentioned Souders Eggs before. They're a local distributor of eggs. This bridge restriction will cost them $1,500 additional a week just because of the detours they have to take. And that adds up quickly. And that's the cost of this type of neglect. You might have seen the paper about Nordstrom's potentially setting up a warehouse in Mountjoy, in the Mountjoy area. If we don't have an adequate infrastructure, they're not coming. And they're suggesting that they're going to employ as many as 400 people. So it is a critical component, and our state must address this. The other piece is telecommunication. States, communities, and municipalities that cannot keep up with all the aspects of telecommunication will continue to find themselves hampered in attracting any economic growth, because I'm sure all of you are well aware that is the way business gets done. And it's not the traditional stay at home or go to the office every morning and do your work. It's stay at home and do your work. It's travel somewhere and do your work. But it requires a very robust telecommunications platform, and communities must offer that if they want to compete. And then the last thing appropriate to you folks is education and workforce training. You've heard probably thousands of times that you are officially lifelong learners. If you think any differently, you're crazy. You are training right now or going to school right now and potentially going to end up in jobs that don't even exist right now. It is amazing to see how these things occur where all of a sudden everybody has these new jobs, like the latest, I guess, cachet one is a genetic counselor. What the heck is a genetic counselor? Well, it's one of the most sought after employment tracks now because of all this stuff with genetics that we're doing and the way that's changing people's lives. Well, that didn't exist 5 years ago. And now it's a huge growth opportunity for employment. But that is a real challenge to make sure that everybody's keeping up with their continual education and training. Our economic opportunities are we have a very diverse economy in Lancaster County that serves us well. Many communities are based on one particular industry. And if that industry falters, they're in trouble. We do not have that. We have a very diverse economy. We have educational quality. Elizabethtown College, one of the top of that list. Franklin and Marshall, Millersville University, Stevens Technical School, Pennsylvania College of Art and Design, Lancaster Bible College, Harrisburg Area Community College. The list goes on. We have a great educational quality in Lancaster County, and we can make a difference with that. We have proximity to marketplace. Here's an amazing statistic. Here's an amazing statistic that will wake you up before I end. And that is that there are more people that live within 250 miles of Lancaster City than any other city in the United States. Now, when you're trying to get your product to market, if you're Nordstrom's, or as you might have seen, if you're Urban Outfitters, and want to get your products to market from people that are buying it on the internet, you want to locate it at a place that can get you to that market. And Lancaster County is the best situated community for that market. We have great quality of life and amenities. Hopefully you are beginning to experience that during your college journey, and as you advance you will experience that more and more. But I will put our recreational and cultural opportunities and experiences against anybody. And the Marcellus Shale Resources is just one that's obviously fairly new. Again, I don't know how much you know or don't know about it, but the opportunity to realize that there is natural gas underneath Pennsylvania that is larger than what could be had in Saudi Arabia in terms of its producing of energy and fuel is a game changer. And when we figure out how to harness that and to make sure that that's serving everybody well, both environmentally and practically and globally, that can be a resource unlike any we've ever seen in Pennsylvania, far more than the coal impact or the timber impact that sustained Pennsylvania's economy in years past. I talked too long. I'm done. What do you want to ask? Or do you just want to get the heck out of here? Anybody have any questions? Yes?
So there were 60 different municipalities in Lancaster County.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of effort to maybe like combine them or bring that number down a little bit?
There are always stop and start efforts to try to do something, but it never goes very far, to be honest with you. It would require an active state government to get that to allow that to happen. What the state government has been encouraging in different ways, and what some municipalities are taking advantage of, is the opportunity to work more collaboratively together. So they may have a shared police department, or they may have a shared, they may buy a plow together so that we don't have 60 different municipalities buying a plow. There are things like that they are more and more learning to work together on because, quite frankly, economically, they have no choice. They have to find ways to create more efficiencies, but there are certain barriers that the state has imposed on the municipal system that they cannot cross. Anybody else? Thank you all very much. Thoroughly enjoyed being here. To you.
Okay, so two things. Starting last year, the department marketplace mixer with the chamber here at the college, and we had roughly about 45 businesses that attended. Now, the reason that this is significant, and Mr. Baldrige made a real good point, is that we are trying to encourage a lot of the students to work with our local businesses. So through the chamber, we've been able to develop nice partnerships with businesses for you all to have internships. And the chamber has been very instrumental in helping us bridge these relationships with these businesses. So it's very important that the connection between the college and the chamber and the businesses stays very robust, because we want to be able to infuse you into the community to gain experience and opportunities so that you can make a contribution to society. So with that, let's give another round of applause to Mr. Baldrige.
Sorry, I have to say one more thing. That is that I'm glad you brought that up. Please take advantage of the intern opportunities that Elizabethtown is providing for you. And we are looking forward to continue the partnership with Elizabethtown. We think we can actually do more in trying to make those intern opportunities local. It is a great way for you to learn about business, number one, but number two, it's a great way for you to connect for potential employment for the future. And in our most sincere self-interest, it will keep you here. And I'm not kidding when I say we want you folks to stay in Lancaster, and we think there's great opportunity here for you to do that. One quick thing is we are about to relaunch something on our website called Career Connect. Lancaster Chamber website is lancasterchamber.com, but then there's a thing called Career Connect, and that will have a listing and posting of all internship and other opportunities that we'll be making available for students out of our 2,500 member companies that are participating in the program. So use your resources here at Elizabethtown College, and know that there's also the Career Connect website out there that can help plug you in as well. But thank you, and get involved.
Thank you very much.